Mr. President, you're dealing with a lot of good economic news today, and there's a lot of media people, it seems like all they ever talk about, and John Solomon and Sarah Carter broke a big story tonight.
Great people.
And what they're saying is that even the intelligence community and the FBI didn't want to give the intel to the Obama administration because there were conflicts, and they would weaponize it against you. That's our new information.
Well, I'm not surprised to hear it. If you look at what's been going on over the last couple of years, and I'm not just talking about from the time I won the presidency, this took place when I was winning in the primaries. I mean, you look at what's going on, I'm not surprised to hear anything.
Before the election, after the election, even the media leak strategy, Lisa Page had testified that for 9 months they had no evidence at all whatsoever. But it seems to be coming to an end.
Well, it has to come to an end. It's so bad for our country. I call it the witch hunt. It is so bad for our country. And when you see Strzok and Page and McCabe with his lies, he gets fired for lying. You see all of the things, and Comey for lying and leaking. You see what went on, it's got to come to an end. So bad for our country.
The irony in all of this is I have been uncovering all of this. When you think about it, Clinton bought and paid for, used funneled money, a dossier, foreign national put it together.
A lot of money.
They never verified, they never corroborated, and it was the bulk of information. You have now said declassify and redact it. How soon will that be coming?
Well, we're moving along, we're working along. We're also dealing with foreign countries that do have a problem. I must tell you, I got called today from 2 very good allies saying, please, can we talk? So it's not as simple as all that. And we do have to respect their wishes, but it'll all come out.
We begin a Fox News alert tonight. This is massive breaking news. The president just tweeted this out, quote, I have now fully authorized the total declassification of any and all documents pertaining to the single greatest political crime in American history, in other words, the Russia hoax, and likewise the Hillary Clinton email scandal, no redactions. This is a big deal, and by the way, should lead to troves of declassified material. Again, without the redactions, we'll have a lot more of this coming up. You'll see how sinister all of this was from the get-go, and it should shock the conscience of our nation.
You have no messages.
Nobody loves you.
Big breaking news and developments tonight in the biggest abuse of power corruption scandal in American history. Now the Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, today declassified handwritten notes from former CIA Director John Brennan, taken after he briefed then President Barack Obama in July of 2016 about Hillary Clinton's alleged plan to drum up the entire Trump-Russia hoax. And according to the notes, Brennan briefed Obama on allegations that Hillary, well, she was trying to tie Donald Trump to the collusion hoax. Why? To distract we, the American people, from her illicit private email server scandal. And we got some other big news last night. Paul Sperry tweeting, when all these documents are finally declassified and all the redactions removed from the reports, which the president is now promising to do, the nation will see that the FBI and the CIA not only knew the Russia collusion allegations against Donald Trump were a political dirty trick, but that they were all in on it.
These people are sick.
And President Trump responded to Paul Sperry's tweet with a, I have fully authorized the total declassification of any and all documents pertaining to the single greatest political crime in American history, that is the Russia hoax. Likewise, the Hillary Clinton email scandal, no redactions. And of course, this now all begs the question, what did Biden know? When did he know it? What did Barack know? And when did he know it? Here with reaction, the co-authors of Trump, America First, Dave Bossie, Corey Lewandowski, as well as Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. So now we have full confirmation. Greg, this is the story you have 2 #1 bestsellers on, that in fact Hillary concocted the whole thing for the purpose of distracting from the deleted emails and the bleach pit and the hammers and the classified information on the server that never should have been there.
Well, I knew she invented it all because I said so in Chapter 2 of my book, Clinton Collusion. And now we know that Hillary Clinton not only invented the Russia hoax, she financed the Russia hoax, she disseminated the Russia hoax, and Barack Obama knew it. He sat on the information, he covered it up to protect Clinton and destroy Donald Trump. He sat there silently as our government was thrown into turmoil for the last 4 years over what he knew, based on the intelligence presented to him by John Brennan, was phony information conjured up by Hillary Clinton to distract from her own emails. But it demonstrates just how immoral, unscrupulous, devious, and corrupt Hillary Clinton was. And for those like John Brennan, who's now gone on the air and said, well, she didn't do anything wrong, she didn't do anything illegal.
These people are sick.
He doesn't know. He's not a lawyer. I would argue she has committed crimes depending upon how she disseminated the information. It's a crime, a felony.
Did he disseminate that
false information to a law enforcement.
Didn't he give it to Harry Reid?
He did, and so he would be culpable.
And didn't he leak it to David? Who leaked it to Korn and Isikoff, the conspiracy theorists? Because part of the dossier was leaked there, so we know. Go ahead.
Well, it depends on how it was leaked and to whom, and I hope that the president's declassification and removal of the redactions sheds light on that, because this does appear to be a criminal conspiracy.
All right, Corey, Dave Bossie, let me ask you both. Corey, you can answer first. How does this impact the election, and why are we only finding out 28 days before the next election, considering this is such a bombshell, and how do you see this shaping up? Because for the life of me, I can't tell anybody with any amount of certainty who's going to win in 28 days. Corey.
Sean, when does Comey and Clapper and Brennan, the guys who perpetuated the greatest crime in American history, get held accountable? When do they go to jail? When do they get walked out in handcuffs, Sean? Because there's been 2 tiers of justice in this country. One if you're a Donald Trump supporter and you get the book thrown at you, and one if you're a Hillary Clinton supporter and you get away with it.
These people are sick.
And the only cure for that Trump derangement syndrome is 4 more years.
We've seen this time and time again, and we asked Donald Trump, Dave and I sat in the Oval Office and asked Donald Trump if Barack Obama knew about this insurance plan, and in 2018 he said Barack Obama did know. We know Joe Biden knew about it, he was briefed on it. We know Brennan knew about it, Clapper, Comey. None of them have been held account for what has transpired, which is the greatest hoax in American political history. They tried to take out a duly elected president, Sean, and no one, not one person, has been put in jail for this yet.
All right, Dave Bossie, how do you assess this race 28 days out?
Well, President Trump's going to win, but and we are going to be able to talk about this because we've all been waiting for John Durham. We've been waiting for this investigation to become public, and we're not getting anything. And now we're learning. We're learning just today. Thank God John Radcliffe has done this. But look, July 26th, Hillary Clinton approves this devious plan, this illegal plan. On the 28th, they have this briefing in the Oval Office, and on the 31st of July, Crossfire Hurricane begins. I mean, this. You don't need to be Columbo to figure this one out. What are we doing? To Corey's point, why is no one being held to account? Why is no one going to jail? Why has nobody been indicted? This is a criminal conspiracy beyond all others. It's the greatest crime in American history. The Obama-Biden administration is the most corrupt in history. And what did Joe Biden know, and when did he know it? We know he was in the Oval Office for the January 5th, 2017 meeting where he recommended Mike Flynn get hit with the Logan Act. So we know he's in on this. So he needs to be asked, and we need to demand the answers of, did he know about this criminal conspiracy?
The fact that we now know this, the fact that they knew that Christopher Steele's subsource in January of 2017 was a known Russian operative for 10 years, and they still continue to use it as the bulk of information for the FISA applications.
These people are sick.
Every one of these guys should be put in jail. And by the way, God forbid if Biden ever won, this thing all goes away. It'll all be covered up, and only to be brought back and more abuse of power down the road. Unbelievable.
And Sean, if I could, Greg is exactly right. For Barack Obama and Joe Biden for the last 4 years to allow Donald Trump to be attacked and maligned and attempted to be destroyed when they know the facts, it is outrageous what they did to America.
Unbelievable.
Vice President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If Vice President Biden is declared the winner and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what would be your role and responsibility as Vice President? What would you personally do? You have 2 minutes.
Well, Susan, first and foremost, I think we're going to win this election. Because while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris rattle off a long litany of the establishment in Washington, D.C., an establishment that Joe Biden's been a part of for 47 years, President Donald Trump has launched a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. And I have every confidence that those same Americans that delivered that historic victory in 2016, they see this president's record where we rebuild our military, we revived our economy through tax cuts and rolling back regulation, fighting for fair trade, unleashing American energy. We appointed conservatives to our federal courts at every level. And we stood with the men and women of law enforcement every single day. And I think that movement of Americans has only grown stronger in the last 4 years. But when you talk about accepting the outcome of the election, I must tell you, Senator, your party has spent the last 3.5 years trying to overturn the results of the last election. It's amazing. When Joe Biden was Vice President of the United States, the FBI actually spied on President Trump and my campaign. I mean, there were documents released this week that the CIA actually made a referral to the FBI documenting that those allegations were coming from the Hillary Clinton campaign. And of course, we've all seen the avalanche, what you put the country through for the better part of 3 years until it was found that there was no obstruction, no collusion, case closed. And then Senator Harris, you and your colleagues in the Congress tried to impeach the President of the United States over a phone call.
These people are sick.
And now Hillary Clinton has actually said to Joe Biden that in her words, under no circumstances should he concede the election.
Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstances because I think this is going to drag out, and eventually I do believe he will win if we don't give an in.
So let me just say, I think we're going to win this election. President Trump and I are fighting every day in courthouses to prevent Joe Biden and Kamala Harris from changing the rules and creating this universal mail-in voting that will create a massive opportunity for voter fraud. And we have a free and fair election. We know we're going to have confidence in it. And I believe in all my heart that President Donald Trump is going to be reelected for 4 more years.
But I want to talk about that because you've been facing incredible resistance your entire term, and you've taken some real bold action this week, authorizing the disclosure of all of the documents related to the Russia hoax. Mr. President, we now know from these documents that John Ratcliffe unveiled that it was Hillary Clinton's idea to tie you to Russia in some way. It was successful. The whole country was talking about it for 2.5 years. But what comes next, Mr. President? We can have all of these documents. We can see exactly what happened. But unless John Durham comes out with a report or indictments, unless Bill Barr comes out with some kind of a ruling here, do you think this is resonating on the American people?
Unless Bill Barr indicts these people for crimes, the greatest political crime in the history of our country, then we're going to get little satisfaction unless I win, and we'll just have to go, because I won't forget it. But these people should be indicted. This was the greatest political crime in the history of our country, and that includes Obama, and it includes Biden. These are people that spied in my campaign, and we have everything. Now they say they have much more, okay? And I say, Bill, we got plenty. You don't need it anymore. We got so much, Maria. You just take a look at the Comey report, 78 pages of kill, done by Horowitz. And I have a lot of respect for Horowitz, and he said prosecute. He recommended prosecute, and they didn't prosecute. I couldn't believe it, but they didn't do it because they said we have much bigger fish to fry. Well, that's okay. They indicted Flynn for lying, and he didn't lie. They destroyed many lives. Roger Stone over nothing. They destroyed lives. So look at Manafort. They sent in a black book that was a phony black book. Phony. They made up a black book of cash that he got from Ukraine or someplace. And he didn't get any cash. It was a phony book. What they've done to people, Carter Page.
John, we're going to have Carter Page coming on. He's going to tell his story, and we just heard from George Papadopoulos. Their lives have been completely changed. John Brennan briefed President Obama on this. What else is needed to ensure that the American people understand what took place, trampling on American people's rights and liberties before the election?
Look, we have all the evidence in the world. In addition to that, I released everything, every document. I don't care what it pertains to. I released everything. I've declassified. I'm the only one in the country that has the power to do that. I've declassified everything. I did it a year ago, actually, for Bill Barr. I declassified everything, so they would have no this, so there's not a document they can't have.
Let's see who's next on that. Yours.
I just want to. So last night, Mnuchin said to you he's interested in getting back to talking about a larger bill, but he would need the president's buy-in. So you've been involved.
I would not put those exact words in his mouth. No.
So could you tell us what the exact?
No.
Okay.
There were no exact words like that. It was what we were talking about, a single bill, a standalone bill, and the particulars within a singular bill, because they have some objection to what we put. You know, we had a UC, a unanimous consent request last week that the Republicans rejected. And so, and the Senate had their own version, which they even rejected themselves. The Senate Republicans rejected themselves. So the question is, what if there were to be a standalone bill? What does that look like? And the only point about negotiations is, ain't going to be no standalone bill unless there's a long-term, a bigger bill, and it could be part of that, or it could be in addition to that.
Negotiations now off and on since July over this package, and
well, actually, since May.
Since May. Okay.
It's almost 5 months. Excuse me.
More so. So, could you just give us a sense? I mean, the president pulled away. Mnuchin seems eager to do something. I mean, give us your prospects here of where you think things are, given your talks with Mnuchin and the president and McConnell's, I guess, hesitancy to, or disagreement about the larger package. Could you just give us what your prospects are at this moment?
Well, I don't know what the prospects are when we hear people saying I'm young and I'm a perfect specimen, instead of addressing the fact that 50,000 people were infected, reported to be infected yesterday. Nearly 1,000 people died. What are we talking about here? Tomorrow, by the way, come here tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the 25th Amendment, but not to take attention away from the subject we have now. Okay, here's the thing. We've been working very hard on language, because if you don't have the language, you're just giving them a blank check. for a presentation on the Constitution of the United States. The 25th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified in 1967 after the assassination of President Kennedy, with strong bipartisan support. Members of Congress have a duty to take all necessary action to preserve continuity of government and protect the stability and integrity of our democracy for the future.
These people are sick.
That is why today, again, it is my honor to welcome Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland, a constitutional scholar, as he introduces legislation to establish a commission on presidential capacity to discharge the duties and the powers and duties of the office. This is not about President Trump. He will face the judgment of the voters. But he shows the need for us to create a process for future presidents. Throughout America's history, our leaders have created and strengthened guardrails in the Constitution to ensure stability and continuity of government in times of crisis. The 25th Amendment creates a path for preserving stability if a president suffers a crippling physical or mental problem and is, quote, in the amendment, unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office and transfers his powers. Specifically, Section 4 of the amendment empowers Congress to set up an independent body to confront such a crisis. Congress has a constitutional duty to lay out the process by which a president's incapacity and the president of any party is determined. This bill honors the duty by creating a standing commission of top former executive officials and medical experts selected in a bipartisan, bicameral way. A president's fitness for office must be determined by science and facts. This legislation applies to future presidents, but we are reminded of the necessity of action by the health of the current president. With this bill, the Congress honors our oath to support and defend the Constitution and protect the American people. And we uphold our responsibility to preserve our republic for generations to come.
Well, because apparently she doesn't consider the country unstable enough, Nancy Pelosi today announced legislation that would make it possible for the Congress to unilaterally take the president out of office under the 25th Amendment to the Constitution. That's the amendment that outlines the procedures for removing presidents who can no longer perform their duties as president. But here's the interesting thing. According to Nancy Pelosi, this new legislation has nothing to do with Donald Trump.
This is not about President Trump. He will face the judgment of the voters. But he shows the need for us to create a process for future presidents.
For future presidents, like, let's say you elected some guy who was like 78 years old, and the Congress decided, he couldn't do the job, so maybe his VP had to be president. Scenarios like that. No matter what she's thinking of, Nancy Pelosi does seem like maybe the wrong person to deliver a message about fitness for office. Maybe you've seen her speak in public recently. If you haven't, here's one example. Last month, Nancy Pelosi froze completely and then rebooted live on air in the middle of an interview. Watch this.
But to be clear, you're not taking any arrows out of your quiver. You're not ruling anything out.
Good morning. Sunday morning. We have a responsibility. We take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution.
Huh? Good morning, Sunday morning. If you were talking to someone who said that, wouldn't you check that person's vitals? Wouldn't you say, I'm sorry, are you having a stroke? The anchor didn't say anything. He didn't want to mansplain, so he didn't. The rest of the media reached the same conclusion. They decided the safe bet is just to agree with Nancy Pelosi.
Whether it's a side effect of the steroids he's taking as part of his coronavirus treatment or something else, Donald Trump seems to be drifting further away from reality today.
Donald Trump doesn't seem like a well man. I'm just going to be blunt about it. Is this steroids? Is this a psychological issue?
We do know that he's taking a powerful steroid that can affect mood and judgment. You put all that together and you've got a president who is unwell physically, unwell politically, and unwell emotionally and psychologically right now.
Holed up in the White House, hopped up on steroids, and rage tweeting and calling into his favorite channel, rage interviewing.
He's embarrassing to the people who support him.
These people are sick.
2020, it's a horrible year in so many ways, but it's also a truly hilarious year in so many other ways. Here you have CNN, which has its own weightlifting correspondent who also hosts a show at night, who does squats on TV and screams at strangers on the street, threatens them.
Oh, punk-ass bitches from the right call me Fredo. My name is Chris Cuomo. I'm an anchor on CNN.
But they're upset about the president's roid rage. And they may have to remove him because of his roid rage.
I have a fucking problem. What are you gonna do about it? I'll fucking ruin your shit. I'll fucking throw you down these stairs like a fucking punk. Please do. Why, so you can fucking sue? You don't want to. So you can fucking sue? Well, why don't you do it? Go take a swing. You call me Fredo. Take a fucking swing. Take a fucking swing. Watch your fucking hands. Watch your fucking hands. Take a swing. Come on, boy. Come on, boy. You want to call me shit? Call me shit. Hey, listen, man. I'm not doing anything. I'll fucking wreck your shit as well. I'll fucking wreck your shit.
Oh, it's all so great. Steve Krakauer has been watching carefully. He's the founder and editor of the Fourth Watch newsletter and the podcast. He joins us today. Steve, great to see you. So roid rage, they're very concerned that the president has been pumping too much iron in his basement and screaming at people at the Hamptons. Should they be?
Yeah, I don't know if Don Lemon is picturing Donald Trump in the White House, like with a syringe and injecting into a bicep or something, but this is like the most commonly prescribed steroid in the country, according to the Washington Post, actually. It's for like rashes and allergic reactions. This is not some like roid rage happening. And honestly, the biggest proof that this is completely ridiculous is, has anything Donald Trump done in the last 7 days since his COVID diagnosis any different than the Donald Trump pre-COVID diagnosis? I mean, rage tweeting. It's like, was he tweeting differently before? I don't understand where they're coming up with this, other than they're just trying to find some new talking point.
Well, I mean, we have an election in a little over 3 weeks. The country's volatile enough. We have violence in the streets. We have a pandemic. It does seem like if you have a national audience, you want to tell the truth, and sometimes the truth is upsetting, but you don't want to go out of your way to make the country more volatile and scare people needlessly. That seems reckless to me.
Yeah, and I think, sadly, that's what we've seen. I honestly thought the pandemic in March would be the beginning of of sort of a lowering of the temperature in the media.
Yes,
I don't think that's happened at all, and certainly not in a very serious situation of the President of the United States coming down, getting hospitalized with coronavirus. You think now, okay, let's all just focus on the facts and sort of lower the temperature, report to the public who probably is nervous about this. Instead, we get people like, honestly, Sanjay Gupta, who has been at CNN for a long time. You worked with him, I worked with him. Now he's on the air saying, I think the president is sicker than he is, than the doctors are letting on. You think the president is sick? I mean, why are you even saying what you think? And even today, today diagnosing based on an interview what he was hearing of a cough, was saying, oh, it sounds like it's actually sicker than we think. It's completely ridiculous and is not based in fact. And for a media that really likes to hold themselves up as very fact-based, we get this on one of the most important topics in the country right now, a very fact-free sort of reports.
We choose truth over facts.
I agree with that. I mean, I have some alarmist, unfounded opinions. I try and keep them to myself. Sometimes they sneak through, but I mean, seriously, you have a responsibility to kind of stay factual. They don't seem to feel that at all. It's distressing. Steve Krakauer, great to see you tonight.
Thanks, Tucker.
Sure, Russia, Ukraine, impeach. Now, some are writing this off as yet another meaningless political smear against the president, but notice that Pelosi said, quote, this is not about President Trump. I don't believe that part either. So just who would it be about then, Nancy? Maybe just you're thinking the cognitively, obviously struggling, weak and frail Joe Biden will win the election and not be able to serve? What an irony that would be. Today, President Trump tweeted out, quote, Crazy Nancy is looking at the 25th Amendment in order to replace Joe Biden with Kamala Harris. The Dems want that to happen fast because Sleepy Joe is out of it. The president continued to highlight Biden's declining abilities. Talked about it on the Rush Limbaugh show. Let's take a listen in.
Joe shouldn't be a candidate. Joe's in no condition to be a candidate.
Well,
we can say it nicely or we can say it badly.
Now, the president is saying what everybody I meet, no matter where I go to a grocery store, go to a gas station, I go to my local pizza place, they're all saying, what is wrong with Joe? Because we've played all the montages. We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal, endowed by the, the thing. Or him going, come on, man, you a junkie? Really weird things.
You know the thing.
Anyway, during an Axios focus group of swing voters in Michigan, one participant said this, Biden's not going to make it 4 years, so Kamala Harris is going to be president, and I have zero trust she can be president. Everyone else in the group, they agreed. So, yeah, it's kind of important to know what Senator Harris actually stands for. She didn't have a good debate with Mike Pence. He kind of eviscerated her this week. But the mob and the media, they're never going to hold her to account. They won't ask her why she co-sponsored the radical Green New Deal. They won't ask her plan on what her plan is to ban oil and gas. They won't ask if she still supports a ban on fracking. She's just lying about that. They won't ask why she promoted that bail fund in Minnesota to put violent anarchists and rioters back out on the street. They won't ask if she supports ending the legislative filibuster. They won't ask if she wants to ban the Electoral College. And they sure as hell won't ask her, why was she open to packing the courts in the past? This should be a signal. If in power, they will do it. You might remember this.
Are you open to expanding the size of the Supreme Court?
I am open to that discussion.
Of course she's open to it. She's more left than Bolshevik Bernie. That should shake America to its core.
These people are sick.
Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce, also Fox and Friends co-host Pete Hegseth. All right, by not saying it, Tammy, they're saying it. And for everybody to say that they think he's not going to survive the first term, we've seen polls now as high as 60%. So that makes this vice presidential debate this week probably more important than any past vice presidential debate. Do you agree?
Absolutely. And her one job, really, in that debate was to show that she could be president. Both she and Joe Biden, I guess, I don't know if it was a gaffe, but have been referring to the team as the Harris-Biden team. She, at one point, during a Zoom call with supporters, referred to it as the Harris administration. Obviously, that discussion has happened. He said himself that he is a a transitionary candidate. And then they do this wink and a nod at the people in the know. And this is the ultimate insult to the American people. It tells you that they have no regard for the decisions we have to make, for what our futures will look like, what we expect from these people. They're patting us on the head like we're little tiny babies and don't know any better. And let me just add one thing about the stunt of the 25th Amendment. The last time Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats controlling the House pulled a stunt like this was in January with impeachment, and they missed the coronavirus being sent over from China. The one person who didn't miss it was Donald Trump. But the damage that was done because they spent 2 months not wanting to have anybody distracted from impeachment, they allowed that to occur. So it makes me very nervous when Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to do her job and wants to engage in personal smears. So this is a very consequential exploration of the lies these people tell, but also the lack of regard they have for every single American. Your families, the future, we don't matter to these individuals, and they're desperate to annihilate Donald Trump because his existence and who he appeals to reminds us that government can be different, presidents can make a difference, and the future is still ours.
So the first question is what we call the chief complaint, which is, briefly, how are you feeling now?
I feel really good. I feel very strong. I know a lot of people that have had the COVID or the China virus, as I call it, because it came from China. But I feel really, really strong. And a lot of people don't feel that way sometimes for a while afterwards, but very good.
What about symptoms that you had last Friday, like when you went into Walter Reed? What were the two most prominent symptoms that you had?
I think didn't feel strong, didn't feel really strong. I didn't have a problem with breathing, which a lot of people seem to have. I had none of that, but I didn't feel very strong. I didn't feel very vital. I didn't feel like the president of the U.S. should feel. And I knew there was something a little bit off. And the doctors at Walter Reed were incredible. They came from Johns Hopkins. They came from everywhere. It's good to be president, I guess, but they were really great people. But I would say more weakness than anything else, Mark.
You know, Mr. President, I got to tell you something confidentially. My patients never listen to me. No matter how hard I try, they don't do what I say half the time.
Yeah.
Did that occur to you where the doctors were telling you something and you were negotiating with them, or did you just do what they said?
I did negotiate, but ultimately I have a lot of respect for these doctors. They're really the best doctors, I think, in the world. And Walter Reed, I've seen the work they do on the military and people coming in so badly injured that like you've never seen before. I have a lot of respect, so I really tended to listen, but generally maybe I wouldn't, but I did tend to listen to this group.
When you were in the hospital, what was bothering you the most? What were you feeling?
I just think that it was just, you were tired. You were, it was just getting to you from the standpoint you didn't have that same energy level. And, my life is based a little bit on energy, and you didn't have it. And I don't know, it could have led to bad things from that point. I don't know, but I got lucky, I think, with a certain medicine. But it really was something. I took a certain medicine that was, very miraculous to me, I think. I really don't believe it's just in the head either. I think I really believe it worked.
Were you scared? Were you frightened?
Well, I took the Regeneron. And Eli Lilly makes a very similar medicine, but you have Regeneron, you have the Eli Lilly version of it. And it just, within a period of 24 hours, I felt very different. I think I could have left the hospital a lot earlier. But it made a tremendous difference, Mark, and, markedly so. And I just felt very good. You would have sort of a sore throat, just to add to what we were saying, but I felt really very, very good after taking this for a period of time. It's a transfusion, not a shot. And, I'd like to send it to everybody. In fact, I've said I'm going to send it to everybody that's got the problem, and we're going to send it free of charge, including seniors, of course. But We're going to send it to everybody.
Did you want to leave earlier, the hospital earlier than they said,
I
Mr.
did.
President?
They wanted to keep me for observation. You know, they wanted to be sure it was good, but I did. I was there for, I guess, 3.5 days. They wanted to keep me. I wanted to leave after the first day. I really felt I was in not bad shape after the first day. I think I would have been in much worse shape had I not taken this medication.
How long did they want to keep you, the doctors?
I don't know exactly, but they kept me for the time. I stayed for the time that they needed me. And they've done a lot of tests. They've done tremendous testing. And right now I'm medication free. I'm not taking any medications as of, probably 8 hours ago or so. I'm medication free, which frankly makes me feel good. I don't like medication.
The Clinton campaign wanted this report to come out. Why? Because the FBI had an exhaustive year-long investigation. They talked to probably dozens and dozens and dozens of people, hours and hours of testimony, and the decision not to recommend prosecution for was absolutely unanimous. Was it careless? Yes. Was it a mistake? Yes. As Hillary Clinton said, I should not have done this, and if I ever had to do it again, I'd make a different decision.
But was it criminal? No.
It was not criminal.
So I guess that's the benchmark now to become president, is not to be criminally jailed.
To be
let's go through the facts. 17,500 emails that she lied about turning over. The server wiped. Within weeks of there being a report that she had a private server, it was wiped. She thought that C, which stands for classified, stood for cookie or something, which stands for classified. She thought that drone strikes are not classified. She said that the reason she used the private server is for convenience, and that she only had one device. She used 13 Blackberries, let me finish, and 5 iPads. At least she doesn't just stick to either Blackberry or iPad. This is somebody who is absolutely disqualified from becoming president. They destroyed Blackberries with hammers in the State Department. That's not what we wanted the president to say.
Actually, Evan, hold on. Can you fact check that? Hang on, Evan Perez. Hammers, fact check that for me, please, on the fly.
Yes, they did, Brooke. As you mentioned, there were 13 devices, mobile devices, and 5 iPads that the FBI said that, in some way were used with her private email server, and they did, in some cases, just destroy them with hammers when they were done using them.
That's a pretty good way of destroying. That's a pretty good way of destroying a device.
That is absolutely not following the rules and regulations of the State Department. You know it. Your 52 reasons just went down to 1. No reasons left. Listen, here's the bottom line here. This is somebody who's disqualified from becoming president. She said that she didn't remember her training because of a concussion. Does she still not remember things? These are all facts. Did I say one thing wrong?
Your candidate has committed inducement to incite espionage.
What are you talking about?
Are you kidding? He is basically encouraged officers
that is a ridiculous statement
against the United States. That, frankly, should be a treasonous offense.
That's a huge reach. What is treasonous?
It's not a huge reach.
Is to enable. Yeah, he's going nowhere.
No, my point is, you have someone who is so irresponsible with national security.
One voice, gentlemen. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. And sir, you are a West Point grad, and I know you know the Constitution very well. Earlier today, Speaker Nancy Pelosi said that she's going to introduce a bill to have a commission to study the 25th Amendment. Do you think that the 25th Amendment needs studying?
I don't. I saw a little bit of what she was doing. It looks to me like a political stunt. Everyone knows exactly what the 25th Amendment says, and frankly, more importantly, Dan, I've been speaking to the president a lot lately. There's no need for anybody to think about succession. He's doing just great.
Well, and he was talking about you a little bit yesterday as well on Mornings with Maria. He was expressing some frustration about these Hillary Clinton emails that are not declassified yet or released yet. Take a listen.
They're in the State Department, but Mike Pompeo has been unable to get them out, which is very sad. Actually, I'm not happy about him for that reason. He was unable to get them out. I don't know why. You're running the State Department, you get them out. Forget about the fact that they were classified. Let's go. Maybe Mike Pompeo finally finds them, okay?
And then just now on Rush Limbaugh, he had this to say.
She deleted 33,000 emails. She should be in jail for that. I don't even care if they're very highly confidential emails. I don't care what.
So what is the state of this investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails at the State Department?
So, Dan, you'll remember I was close to this even when I was a member of Congress when I served on the Benghazi committee now, what seems like a little bit of time ago. We've got the emails. We're getting them out. We're going to get all this information out so the American people can see it. You'll remember there was classified information on a private server. It should have never been there. Hillary Clinton should never have done that. It was unacceptable behavior. It's not the kind of thing that leaders do. They don't put that kind of information out, and you can see whether it's Russia or China or Iran or the North Koreans who want to get their hands on this kind of information. Classified information needs to stay in the right places. Secretary Clinton, when she was here at the State Department, did not do that.
The president has the authority to declassify anything he wants. All authority is to him. Could he declassify it and order it released if he wanted to and if he ordered?
Absolutely. We're going to get there. We're going to get this information out so the American people can see it.
If he were to order that, would there be concerns about maybe health and safety sources or methods that could possibly be in these emails if there's classified information?
So, Dana, I've been at this a long time with President Trump for 4 years now almost. I've never seen him do anything that would put any kind of asset, any kind of one of our officers in any harm's way. He wouldn't do that. We'll get the information out that needs to get out, and we'll do it in a way that protects the intelligence sources that we need to protect.
And last question on that, will that happen before the election?
Doing it as fast as we can. I certainly think there'll be more to see before the election.
Any arrows out of your quiver, you're not ruling anything out.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
These people are sick.